Hello friends, today we will discuss about some concepts of C# programming. So here is the list for today's lecture. What is this reference in C#? What are static and constant members? Differentiate between static and constant members, and how to pass objects to functions. So these concepts we will cover one by one with the proper examples in Visual Studio. So let's begin. First topic, we have this reference. So what is this reference in C#? Here first we have to focus on definition. This is a reference keyword that refers to the current object inside a class. So it is a kind of reference keyword which we can use in class. Means if we create any class, we can use that inside that, because it only triggers to that particular current object value. Okay, and then we can change it, whatever we want to do with our objects. We can change the value, we can modify the values, or as it is we can pass the same value. It is used when local variable names and instance variable name conflicts. Means it is a kind of a differentiation between local variable names and instance variable names. Suppose if we are passing some parameters that has a property name, okay, means employee name, and then we create a field inside a class that has also same name as that of parameter name, means employee name. So to differentiate between that, what value is coming from the parameters and what value we are using to the fields. So that conflicts, if we want to resolve that, we can use this keyword. So why use this? To differentiate between class fields and method parameters. I already told you about this one. To call other constructors, we can also call other constructors. To pass the current object as reference, so we can also pass the current object as a reference. So here we have one example. Student class we have inside, we create one field, name field for this one, and one constructor, student constructor we have, we are passing one parameter. Here you can focus, here we have a same name, parameter name and field name is same. So differentiate between these two properties, we can use this keyword to differ between the parameter value and the field value. So this one is a field value and this is the parameter value. So it always refers to the current object, and here we call one method to show the message, means the current name we are passing through the parameter and we are using with this keyword. Here we have main method where we create a instance of student class and we pass one parameter, that is string field, and we call this method to display the value. So let's see this one in Visual Studio. First we have to create a class private integer. So here is the field name. Okay, suppose we create one constructor of employee class where we have same parameter name and same field name. So how we can differentiate between these two properties, that which one is coming from parameter, which one is we are using from the field. So to remove this conflict, we have to use this keyword like this. It always refers to the current object. So this one is the field name and this one is the parameter name. We are passing the parameter value to this field value. And next we can call one method employee info. Okay, here we can pass that value which we are getting from the parameter employee ID. So okay, here we can create the instance of employee, and here we have Here we can pass any parameter, any integer parameter. Suppose we pass this, so this is our employee ID. Next we can call this method employee info. Okay, now let's see what will be the result for this one. So we have the result 50. Employee ID is 50. As we are passing 50 value through the constructor, so we get this value inside this constructor, means employee ID, and we directly put this value to this keyword value, means this field value, that is we created inside the class, that is employee ID. So we can use that employee ID, means it always refers to the current object, and we can modify it, we can directly display that value. So this one we can use. So this is all about this reference keyword concept. Next we have static members. So what are static members? First we have to focus on definition. Static members belong to the class, not a specific objects. Static members directly belongs to that class. Suppose if we create any static field, any static method inside a class, we can directly call that through the class. We do not want to create an instance of that class, then we can get that value or pass some values. We can directly use the class name dot that field name is employee ID, employee name, like that. They can be accessed without creating an instance of the class. Here we can more clarify with this counter class. Here we have one field, that is static field. Okay, here we initialize some value, that is 0, and here we created one constructor for this counter class, and we just incremented this value. Here we have two initialization methods for counter class, but we are not using these C1 and C2. We directly use the class name dot count variable name. Okay, now it is accessible directly with the class because we are using the static members. Now let's see this one. Suppose here we have that public static member. Okay, integer. Here we can pass some value. So this is the employee ID. Employee ID, if we want to change this employee ID, then we can do like that. This thing we don't need right now. So this is the instance created. And we do not pass any values. Okay, now let's see how we can directly use the static members. Employee ID. Okay, this one is the class name, and there what is the field name, that is employee ID. Means we are not using an instance variable name. Okay, we are directly using the class name and the property name. Now let's see first what will be the output. Now we have the latest output, means latest value, that is 350. First we initialize 250 inside this class, and after in the constructor we change that value, we modify that value, that is 350. Now it is getting the 350 values because we are directly using this one. Okay, employee class name directly with the dot field name, that is employee ID. Suppose if we do not initialize this one, we do not want any constructor. Now how it will behave? Now we have 250 value as it is, which we initialize first. Okay, so this is the concept of static members. We can directly use the class name and dot, means any field name, any method name we can directly use. We do not need to create any instance of that particular class, means it is not dependable on this instance level. So directly we can use. Next we have constant members. So what are constant members? First we have to focus on definition. Constant const members have fixed values which cannot be changed after declaration. Constant values are that values which we do not modify. If we initialize one time, we cannot change that value after first initialization. It is same throughout the whole program. Must be assigned at compile time. So it is must we have to provide some values on the compile time. First we have one example here, math constant class, where we put some values for this pi 3.14, and this one we use const keyword. If we want to use this constant members, we have to use the const keyword, and inside the main method we directly call this class dot pi. Okay, so if we want to change this one, we cannot change, it will throw an compile time error. Suppose if we have this const keyword, okay, department id 100. Okay, so first we initialize this values. First we have to see the result, what will be the result for this one. Now let's have a look on department id. Department id, now we have department id that we declared 100 value for this department id. Okay, suppose if we want to change this one inside a constructor or any method, how it will behave. Now it is giving the error. The left hand side of an assignment must be a variable, property or indexer. So it is a compile time error, we cannot change the constant field value. Suppose if we want to change the static members, how it will behave. Now you can see that we can change the static members value but not the constant values. So this is the limitation of constant variable. If we initialize any value, particular value for particular property, then we cannot change that, modify that value, but in static we have the access to change the value. Okay, so this is the main difference of static and const keyword. So this one is the concept of const keyword. Next we have difference between static versus constant keyword. First one features, then static, and then constant. First we have value, can change. As we already saw that we can change the value of static keyword, but we cannot change the value of const keyword because it is fixed. If we initialize any value, particular value to that constant variable, we cannot change that. Initialization, we can initialization on runtime and it is initialized on compile time. And access level, what about the access level? Class level means class level. Allowed types, any type we can initialize any value to static members, but in constant only primitive values. We can use that integer values, any string values we can use in constant keyword. Next topic is passing objects to functions. Objects can be passed to a function as parameters. So how we can pass the objects as a parameters? Through the functions or through the methods. It allows data sharing between methods. So we can share the multiple data, means a bulk amount of data through the methods. So how we can do that? First we have to look up this example, this employee example. First we have employee class where we put two parameters, two fields, name and salary. And here we have one static method. Inside that method we are incrementing salary. First we create the instance of employee class and we put the name and salary value to this one. First we see the values we provided, means 25,000. It will display this value, and after that we call the update salary method. Now we are changing the value inside this method, so it will give us the current new value, means plus 5,000, means 30,000 it will give. Here we can see how we can pass objects as parameters. First we have to create this one. We do not require this static and constant. First we have to provide some value to this. Okay, we need not to initialize first. Line on department ID equal to 150. So this one is the employee ID and this one is the department ID. Employee ID, first we can see the employee ID. Okay, next we can change the value. Now inside this method we can change the value for department. Suppose here we put 150 and here we provide 250. Okay, and then we call this method. After this, display employee info. Okay, now look at this one for department ID. Which value it will give us, means current value or the old value. Current value is we have 250, old value is 150. Now let's have a look on this one. So here we have two values. First one is employee ID, that we provided 100. Okay, and department ID 250. So it is not getting that department ID, means the old value, because we change the value inside this particular method, and after displaying this employee ID we directly call this employee info method, and we change the department ID to 250 from 150. So it is displaying the 250 values. Okay, suppose if we want to pass this object as a parameter, how we can pass? We can directly pass like this. Okay, so we are directly passing this object as a parameter. Now how to get this object as a parameter? First we have to use the model name, means that is employee, and then we can use this one. Okay, and here we can change or modify this model. In this way we can pass directly a model, and we can directly modify that model inside this method. We can use or as a parameter this model. First we have to provide this model name, means that is employee, and then we have to provide some specific meaningful name to this one. Now let's have a look what will be the result for this one. Now the result is same for this one, because we pass object as a parameter and we change that parameter value inside this particular method. So we have department ID that is 250, that is a new value. Okay, so this one is the concept of passing objects as a parameter. Next we have today's summary. So let's revise what we learned today. First one is we have this reference, refers to a current class object and helps differentiate class fields from parameters. So this keyword we can use if we want to use the current value to get the current value. Then in that scenario we can use this keyword. It is mainly purpose is differentiate between the field value and the parameters value. If the parameter property value and the field property value property name is same, so how we can differentiate? We can differentiate it with this reference keyword. So we can use that. Static members belongs to class not objects and accessed using class name dot member. So static members we can directly use with the class name. We do not have a need to create an instance of that class and then to use that fields. We can directly use that class name dot then field name or the method name. In this way we can use the static members. Constant members with the const keyword. Const keyword is that which we do not modify. If we initialize one time, means provide some value to that particular property, means constant variable, then we cannot modify throughout the program. because it is fixed, value fixed at compile time and cannot be changed. It is read only, so it is only read only, not we cannot modify that value. Passing objects to functions, objects passed by reference and changes affect original objects. So we already saw that how we can pass the objects as a parameter and how we can get that model inside that particular method or functions. So it is easy if we want to modify any model inside the another methods. So in this way we can pass the model directly that object and get that into method. So these are the all topics we covered with all examples. So you can practice them into your Visual Studio. If you have any doubt related with these concepts, any of the concepts, you can mention them into the comment section. So let's wind up today's session. Thanks. See you in the next lecture.